Pintar, we started recording and we can start the meeting.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the County of San Diego Citizen Law Enforcement Review Board hearing of June 5, 2025. If I could please have our board secretary call the roll.
Chair Pintar.
Present.
Vice Chair Tina.
Present.
Secretary Pisano, present. Dr. Brown,
Present.
Ms. Federico Mondrian, Mr. Mendelson,
Present.
Mr. Ware. Let the record show we have a quorum for CLERB business.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to item number 2. This is a statement of just cause, consideration for a request to present remotely. I'd like to request permission to participate remotely. I've been caring for my sick brother who's been in the hospital all week, and I believe I need a vote on that item. So I'd like to call the roll and request permission from the board. Brett, since I can't see everybody, if you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. Is there a motion?
Second the motion to allow the chair to participate remotely.
Vote. Chair Pintar,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tina.
Yes.
Secretary Pisano, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Federico Mondrian, Mendelson.
Yes.
Ware. Passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 3. Again, this is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any subject matter within CLERB's jurisdiction, but that is not an item on today's open session agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. We will go to the people who are present in person and then to people online. And just a reminder to everyone that wants to comment on items today, we have a couple of opportunities for public comment. So please look ahead at the public agenda and see the other opportunities to comment to make sure you're commenting on the correct items. With that, Nadaras, if you could please help us start with our first speaker.
Thank you, Chair Pintar. First, I will call Paloma Serna.
My name is Paloma Serna. I'm the mother of Elisa Serna, who died in San Diego County, Las Colinas jail on November 11, 2019. She was left to die on a cell floor by deputies and medical staff. I'm with Saving Lives in Custody, California, and North County Equity and Justice Coalition. CLERB's role is to provide independent oversight and accountability, yet too often we're seeing delays, denials, and decisions that fall short of what justice demands. We ask CLERB to do more than just reviews. We ask you to speak the truth, recommend consequences, and help prevent future deaths. When law enforcement and jail medical staff neglect, abuse, or kill someone in custody, they must be acknowledged and plainly and publicly. Even now, I have a woman asking for help for her husband who is in custody at Central Jail. A judge gave an order for him to be treated for his cancer. 2 months have passed and he is still waiting. We also urge CLERB to ask Kelly Martinez directly, how is she keeping drugs out of the jails? The community deserves to know. Families are losing loved ones to overdoses behind bars like Timothy, Aaron, Carlton, Saxon Rodriguez, William Hayden Shuck, and Eric Wolf, and most recently, Kayleen Lines, who died on May 12, 2025, just 3 days after we hosted a Mother's Day event called Celebrating Hope. Their deaths and many others raise urgent questions, not only about the presence of drugs, but also about inadequate safety checks and the failure to document those checks. The Jail Information Management System, JIMS, as seen in the case of Donald Altmark. There is there is a growing pattern of unrecorded or undocumented safety checks. And if it's not documented, then we all know it did not happen. When deputies and staff fail to enter safety checks into gym, it becomes impossible to verify whether vulnerable individuals.
1 second, please. Your time is up. Chair Pitar, I have Diana Serna who wrote in her comment that she wants to cede her time to Paloma Serna. Would you allow that?
Yes, yes, please allow Ms. Serna to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. It becomes impossible to verify whether vulnerable individuals were monitored at all. These failures reflect a deep breakdown in responsibility and care. If the sheriff cannot control the flow of deadly drugs in the jails or ensure even the most basic safety and welfare checks, then the public has a right to demand answers and real reform. Our communities are watching. Families are grieving. Lives are being lost behind closed doors. This is a crisis. Gilbert Gill, Elisa Serna, Saxon Rodriguez, Omar Moreno Ororo, Patricia Adamson, Viviana Guarnero, Hayden Shuck, Matthew Settles, Kevin Mills, Pedro Jr. Ornelas, Keith Bach, Eric Wolf, Aaron Carlton, Kayleen Lines, and many more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Yusuf Miller.
Good evening. I'm Youssef Miller with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And I want to talk about on the 19th, there was a report sent out from the grand jury. The grand jury did a report on the healthcare and how that impacts in custody deaths. And in the in custody deaths, we see that people have died from not getting the proper medication, whether it's heart medication, seizure medication. We've seen people who died from not getting insulin that they should have. We've seen all these kinds of neglects from people not getting proper protocols from withdrawal and dying in that way. And this sort of lacks that they have in the medical and mental health, where we have family members who have hung themselves, who weren't getting the proper watch, people who have been put in the wrong classification, so that when they acted out in mental health, that the inmates responded to that and they lost their lives. A lot of these misclassifications in medical and mental health, the grand jury did an investigation on that based on Paloma Serna and I doing a request last year, asking them to investigate the Title 15 rights of the inmates. Title 15 is a state title which talks about the rights that inmates have. And in Title 15, they talk about the rights of medical and the rights of mental health. Also, the 14th Amendment, which is equal protection under the law. So this is what the request that we had, and that report finally this year was released on the 19th of last month. And what did it say? It had a lot of recommendations, but one of the things that was very telling is that San Diego County is not accredited for the basic minimum constitutional health care from the National Commission of Correctional Health Care. The National Commission for Correctional Health Care, we are not certified for that. That is just the bare minimum of mental health constitutionally and the bare minimum of medical health constitutionally.
Thank you. Next, I will call Jock Rodriguez.
Jock Rodriguez here speaking on in custody debt to Saxon Rodriguez. It's been a month and I haven't heard from anybody about my certifieds that you guys should have been provided by all those departments that I was engaged in. Chula Vista, City of Chula Vista Police Department, City of Chula Vista officials, the San Diego Mayor, city officials, or the Sheriff's Department. So They have not spoken to me about those certifieds. And the last I heard from the 12th of November, 2024 was they could not find them, a certified and a drop-off copy. Most of these folks that I had dealt with got 2 copies. The DA's office also got copies. So why I haven't gotten a call and maybe follow up what's happened with the case so you guys could review that information to get a better detail what happened with Saxon in custody's death. One of the things that I don't see in the report was the paperwork issue that was not addressed by the DA in the San Diego Union Tribune paper. Also, I don't have accountability of the 7 broken ribs that he suffered unto in custody. That is torture. That needs to be accounted for torture under US Code 18, subsection 242. So I'm not sure what you guys want to do. I could wait at the end of the meeting and see if you guys want to convene somehow and find out what we need to do to get proper. But I haven't had a response. So as it was pointed out, there was a death in May. That could be construed as manslaughter. I have been denied access and inspection of that facility and documents. So if you got more than I do, I'd like to present that to you. And if there's anything else, I'll be waiting after the meeting.
Mr. Rodriguez, 1 second, please. Marianne, if you don't mind, if I can jump in.
Please.
Mr. Rodriguez, have you filed a complaint with CLERB regarding the access to the records from the Sheriff's Department?
No, I haven't made no complaint with you. I didn't even know you guys were notified of the case.
We wouldn't be notified by the Sheriff's Department in any way unless it results in one of the automatic jurisdiction cases we have. So if you have a complaint against a sheriff, a peace officer at the Sheriff's Department, you would then need to file a complaint with us so we can investigate it.
Okay. I wish I had known that for the last month.
Yeah, I'm glad we had a chance to bring this up. We can get you connected to the investigator from our office and take your information.
All right.
Next, I will call Debus.
Oops, I have to move this. I was arrested 1 year ago at the sheriff's station in Santee. I was at the station to turn in a phone to explain the circumstances that led to me having it. I was never heard. On June 18, I was exiting the parking lot of the Goodwill store, waiting for a break in traffic. As I sat in my vehicle stationary, a car pulled into the parking space behind me, hitting my truck. When I approached the driver, she held the phone in my face, obscuring her own face and accusing me of hitting her car. I felt very threatened by her behavior. So I took the phone from her hand and walked toward my truck. She walked after me and then turned to return to her vehicle, at which point I was afraid of what she may do. So I got into my truck and drove straight to the sheriff's station. I found this woman's behavior to be both threatening and frightening, but I never had any intention of keeping the phone or of harming it. Once at the station, I was arrested and put into jail for 3.5 days on a $100,000 bond. This case was dismissed in court. The high school district where I've worked for over 20 years fired me because of the arrest. I have lost all faith in our judicial system and in those who are supposed to protect the innocent. This has changed and scarred my life because I believe that if anyone had listened to what I was saying and stopped me as an individual, I would not have been arrested. Documents that I provided to CLERB board as a truthful account of my arrest, it is easy to see that several problems in it are in need of review and alignment within our law enforcement system. Several times I was contacted by a member of this committee asking questions that had already been answered in the short document I submitted. I have a couple more
Hold on,
questions.
sir. Hold
A
on.
couple.
Chair, if you wouldn't mind to give Mr. Debos an extra 2 minutes. He does have two separate investigations in front of the board that we will be reviewing this later in closed session.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Several times I was contacted by a member of this committee asking questions that were already answered in the short document I submitted, which is discouraging for me. I filed this complaint to finally be heard and to let you know that I do believe in consequences for actions, but I also believe in the power to use judgment in one's job. And I hope your decision will make those involved understand the importance of listening and showing consideration, especially when the stakes are life altering. That's it. Thank you.
Chair Pintar, I think that concludes the request to speak in person inside the room. I will start to call the requesters online, if you allow me.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So first, I will call Sandy Woodall. And I have a note here that she's ceding her time to Yusuf Miller.
Okay.
Yusef Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And I want to give my condolences to Corporal Rodriguez and this issue. Hopefully he gets his answers and get this resolved. Back to the report on the from the grand jury. Another thing that we want, and that was recommended by the grand jury, is that there be a dashboard, something that the community can see when we're talking about the continuous quality improvement in the jails. We hear all the time from the sheriff's department that we've made this kind of change and that kind of change, but where's the quality improvement result of those kind of changes? Now we know we're on the fourth in custody death. It's fourth in custody death this year. And we're glad that it's not 5, 6, 10, 12. We're glad. But any one death in that jail from some egregious neglect is way, way too many. So we need to know what is these quality improvements and how is that viewed on a dashboard. The educational for the county puts a dashboard up. There's a lot of other institutions, even the correctional facilities and correctional health, they put up dashboards as well. It's not a hard thing to do. We want the following recommendations or the recommendations in that report to be followed by the sheriff's department. And an answer from the sheriff, how is it that we're not certified in the basic health of our institutions? The basic Title 15 of the state, the basic 14th Amendment of our country. How is it that we're not there? No wonder we were on the top in custody death rate in the entire state of California when Saxon Rodriguez lost his life, when Kevin Mills lost his life, when all these other people lost their lives. We were on the top. So this is why, and it stands to reason. So we should take this. The sheriff's department has between 60 and 90 days to respond to this report from the grand jury, and we're waiting with eager anticipation.
Thank you. Next, I will call Jean Brown.
Good evening. I'm Jeannie Brown, Criminal Justice Interest Group Chair of the League of Women Voters of San Diego, and am speaking on behalf of both the Leagues of San Diego and North County, San Diego, on a matter of urgent importance. The League believes California counties should train all officers to identify individuals with mental health or substance abuse addiction conditions, to request support from mental health professionals, and to divert those individuals into treatment instead of jail. Rather than rushing to arrest, it is of utmost importance that trained officers and medical personnel conduct comprehensive screenings before any decision is made to detain an individual. The heartfelt pleas from families at CLERB meetings underscores the urgent need to reform. Incarceration without appropriate care does nothing to help these individuals rebuild their lives or to foster a healthier society. We respectfully urge the CLERB to take immediate action to address these pressing concerns. By investing in proper training and creating mechanisms for obtaining needed treatment, we can design a more compassionate, just, and effective process for all members of our community. Thank you for your time, consideration, and service to our community.
Thank you. Next, we will call Deidre McLeod.
My name is Deidre McLeod, and I'm a constituent of Supervisor Joel Anderson, District 2. My pronouns are she, her. Last October, when this board accepted the sheriff's legal reasoning that CLERB's jurisdiction did not cover any actions other than those by individuals, it was publicly stated that you had other tools you could use to hold the sheriff's office as a whole to account. Board resolutions, policy papers, public letters of concern, and addendums to investigations were all suggested at the time. I am pleased to see you follow up on your October decision with a letter of concern regarding body-worn camera violations on tonight's agenda. Though I know you have a plethora of issues related to general mismanagement, deficiencies, and abuse by the sheriff's office that you could take a stand on, the issue I most want this board to address right now is advocating for full transparency from the sheriff with regard to CLERB disclosures. The requirement that sheriffs release internal reports related to in-custody deaths is under attack in the courts, with San Diego County using taxpayer dollars to shield the SDSO from complying. Which is why I am again asking this board to file a brief with the Ninth Circuit Court in support of an en banc review of the Greer opinion, the 2-1 decision that reopened what should be settled law regarding the public's right to know as much as possible about deaths in our jails. You have the opportunity to be bold and impactful by filing such a motion. It is in keeping with the other proactive measures you are taking tonight. Please do not let this important opportunity to support jail death transparency pass you by. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Leslie Crawford.
Yes, Leslie Crawford for Raymond Vogelman. I would like to succeed my time to North County Equity and Justice Yusuf Miller. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. We look forward to more input from mental health in this state. The BSCC has just selected a mental health chair for the Board of State and Community Corrections. That person is waiting on the Senate approval to take that seat. Once that seat is taken, we're inviting that person here to San Diego to discuss the forward momentum on mental health care in this state, but particularly in the county, because as you know, the AB 268, which calls for a mental health chair and a medical health chair, that momentum started here in San Diego County due to the high in custody death rate in San Diego County. These are the issues that now have turned into law because of what we failed to do back then. We want to be proactive now so that we can save people from falling into that same trap. And we need support from this body when those things happen. When those people come to town to speak to the community, to let us know what their ideas are for moving forward on a state level, we need support from the CLERB. The CLERB is only going to be emboldened and empowered by these seats, and we need to take full advantage of them. So we anticipate a meeting with them within the next month or so, and we will keep everyone informed on what's going on. Just like we had last week, a meeting with the medical chair and the director of in-custody death review for the entire state of California's jails. So these things are developing, and we have an opportunity to do the right thing and stand out loud and proud, just like LA, when LA went to the state up in Sacramento and stood behind legislation. We in San Diego County, as the leader of these kinds of reforms, expect the same from our CLERB. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Ilka.
Yes, hello. This is Ilka Weston. I am part of North County Equity and Justice Coalition, as well as TAP, in order to be inclusive of our adults in parole and custody, parole and probation, as well as children in detention centers. And I am sorry I'm not there. One of the things I did want to bring up, because I know I did file a report about something I'm actually going to court for. And that was due to harassment by a sheriff's deputy in Santee. The system is very difficult to use without having to go to a Kinko's. And Yusuf and I actually spoke on this. It's very important that we make it easier for people to be able to log on and fill out their complaints. Another family has had a hard time because it's not easy to do. Very many people don't own printers or can't afford to pay the outrageous rates at Kinko's. And I think we should make it easier for people to file their complaints. I also know that I had a difficulty in filing mine. And I'm just filing mine because I know it's the right thing to do. The other thing that I really want to reinforce, and I reinforce this every single time I come to a CLERB meeting, we need to get CLERB and the county together, because at this point, trying to make Kelly Martinez as a sheriff work is not doable anymore. She is the equivalency of a killer, and we need to have her utterly removed from office. And with county support, we can do that. In addition, why are we finding reasons to make more titles in order to criminalize people with mental health illness and drug addiction? We need a mental health hospital in order to take care of those issues correctly and do it with respect, not do it in jail. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next, we will call Beverly.
Yes, my daughter-in-law, Gianna Granillo, died July 13, 2022. Sorry, it's just like yesterday all the time. What good is medical intake when necessary protocol afterward is not followed? Why are the CLERB's recommendations not adopted or have repercussions if not adopted? Maybe hefty fines on law enforcement budget, not public funds? Something needs to be done to cause change. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Jennifer. Looks like Jennifer Schmidt, she have her hand down. I will call next Sabrina Woodall.
Hello.
Sabrina, can you hear us?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Weddle, Saxon Rodriguez's older sister. And per usual, I'm here to represent my brother. I will be celebrating his heavenly 26th birthday, July 1st. 19 days after that, I'll be celebrating his 4-year anniversary. Today in closed session, you guys will be talking about a case that happened July 20th, 2023. I actually was outside of the San Diego County Jail that day that death happened, advocating for lives in custody. And literally, as I left, and the next day I get that notification that another death happened, the same day that my brother died 2 years 3 years after. It goes to show that Kelly Martinez continues to suck at her job. And I will let her know that every time I get the opportunity to speak. Kelly Martinez, you suck at your job. You have not yet shown us that you're here to act for those that can't advocate for themselves. We can say all day long they're criminals, but at the end of the day, they're human. They are somebody's mother, daughter, son, brother, cousin. They're loved regardless of the situation that they're in. They deserve basic medical needs. I'm going to always say that the names of the deputies that were responsible for my brother the day that he died: Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Rimple, and Andre Wanzer. And the last CLERB meeting, Andre Wanzer was in a complaint that was what? Justified, sustained, whatever you guys find, anything so that the sheriff. Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Covello, Rhea Encarnacion, Caitlin Hendricks, Marlene Abanza, Kelly Payne, Levy Santos, and Chantel Williams, the 9 nurses that were there. Rest in peace, Saxon Rodriguez. I love you so much.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next week, I will call Tammy. Tammy, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
My name is Tammy Wilson, and my husband, Omar Marino Arroyo, died January 6th of 2021 while having a mental health crisis. He was not put in a monitoring cell. He was just left in the holding cell where he died. The deputies missed a cell check, and he was dead for an hour before he was discovered. I want to know what Kelly Martinez is doing to change the outcome of all these deaths. What is she doing to stop the deaths? You know, she's absolutely doing nothing. She doesn't care because nobody gets reprimanded for the deaths. It just continues to happen. It gets taken out of the taxpayer money, all these lawsuits. Nothing comes from her budget. And I think that's the problem right there. I think it needs to come out of her budget, and maybe she'll take it seriously. These are human beings we're talking about. They are loved by loved ones. They deserve just as much respect as anybody else, and they're treated so poorly in her jails. It's disgusting. We need to get her out of office. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I have a caller with the name RJCSD. Can you hear us? Caller with name, it's abbreviation actually, RJCSD. Can you hear us?
Good evening. Yes, I can. Thank you. Hi, this is Darwin Fishman, he, him, his, with Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. And I just wanted to add the part about meeting with ATI. I'm still on alternatives to incarceration for the County of San Diego. And part of what I was sharing with them is that a lot of people that are getting abused, harmed, and dying in jail are people that never should have been arrested in the first place. And also having experience of done ride-alongs with law enforcement before, I know that when they are going through the process of the citing people, they are not mental health experts, and a lot of people that they are detaining and they are arresting, they have no idea who they are, what their conditions are, whether they're on a medication, whether they're addicted to something. And it's the same once they're processed and go into jail. Many of the people that they interact with, whether it's the deputies or other staff, have no idea about their conditions and how to deal with it. And alternatives to incarceration there are members of that working really hard to have diversion programs so people are not processed through jail. Would hope that CLERB can help reinforce this and help make the case not just within your meetings, but also with things like the supervisors about mental health and people that have mental health conditions being in the jail and the likelihood of them being abused, harmed, or killed, which is why you're hearing yet again at all your meetings so many impacted families, so many people that have lost loved ones needlessly. And I hope that you continue to work at this. And again, not just within your silo, but to report to places like the supervisors and go to ATI so that we can find better alternatives to community members that need support and not jails. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Jennifer Schmidt.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
My name is Jennifer Schmidt. I'm here on behalf of my dad, Gilbert Gill. Valentine's Day 2022, he died in Vista Jail on the floor, never should have been arrested. He had early onset dementia, uncontrolled diabetes, and we called for an ambulance because he was confused. And the Eskimo police came and arrested him, but told us they were just taking him to the hospital. The hospital warned he needed to stay there or he could die, that his chest pains and palpitations need to be monitored, but they still took him to jail for under the influence out of his own bedroom, not listening to anybody. Took him to jail, utter abuse and neglect for 16 hours, where he died naked alone in his own feces on the floor. Inmates banging on the glass for somebody to help him as he's screaming for help, and nobody did anything. This is not justice. I don't even know anything that's really happened except for like the lawsuit. We have to sue the county to get any information about our loved ones, and that is ridiculous. We should not have to sue and take other people's money, not the county, not the sheriff's department, nobody's money. We're taking taxpayers' money. The sheriff's department don't lose their budget at all. And for what? So she sucks at her fucking job, excuse my language, and doesn't do anything.
Jennifer, are you still there? Looks like we lost you.
Norris, why don't you move on to the next speaker, and if she comes back, we'll give her the remainder of our time, okay?
Sure, Chair Pintar. Actually, she was the last
Okay.
person for item number 3. I have one comment for item number 3 to be read for the records, if you allow me to start.
Please.
The comment was submitted by Park Turtman, and it's about the response of the probation department to one of CLERB's question. Last month's response by probation to CLERB's request for info on ND youth does not even use the word neurodiversion, which creates the impression that whoever wrote feared getting into hot water if they attempt to say anything. The low numbers of autistic youth in JJC annual report are implausible. Please consider the assumption that everyone is neurotypical unless you are told otherwise. And that's the end of the comment. With that, that concludes the request to speak for item number 3.
Thank you. So that concludes public testimony for non-agenda public comment. And we will move to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the May meeting, please? Brett, you're gonna have to tell me if someone raises their hand because I can't see everyone.
Dr. Brown made first motion and
Okay.
Mr. Nilsson the second.
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Can I have Ms. Fasano call the roll, please?
Okay. Chair Pintar,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kina, you,
Yes.
Secretary Fasano, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Ware is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. We will move on to item number 5, presentation and training by Detention Services Bureau Commander Jesse Johns. I think it was maybe either last month or the month before, I myself mentioned that what seems to be on people's minds mostly, the people that come before us and the people who speak during public comment, is the medical screening, medical intake, and mental health care and mental health screenings when people come in. One of our public commenters tonight, Ms. Jean Brown, asked the same question about this. So we've asked the Sheriff's Department to come and tell us what they're doing differently. Brad, I'll let you take it from here. So because I cannot see the presenter.
Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Johns, and I'm a commander, and I am currently assigned as the Medical Services Division Commander. First, I'd like to express my sincere condolences to the loss of life that many of you have suffered. And again, being asked to be here to speak to some of the improvements and implementations that we've made over the last couple of years. First, I'll start with Medical Services Division. So early 2024, we identified the need to increase and bolster our leadership staffing on our nursing end, and we created 3 Director of Nursing positions. And just for clarification, for rank structure, we have charge nurses that are in charge of shifts, supervising nurses that are in charge of facilities, and then the directors of nursing are in charge of multiple facilities, and they have collateral duties as well. Those collateral duties could include legal liaisoning with legal for the Sheriff's Department, case management, infection control, training, QA/QI, and CalAIM. Developing these positions allowed us to create a better workflow. It allowed us the ability to enact pilot projects, develop more efficient processes, all while maintaining patient care. The second item I'm going to talk about is contracts that we started with correctional healthcare partners. Correctional healthcare partners are responsible for our physicians at our facilities. They were subcontracted previous to June of 2024 with NavCare, but in June of 2024, we carved them out and we directly contract with them. This type of autonomy allowed correctional healthcare partners to establish pilot projects. And as you see on the slide there, we have providers at intake. So there's a physician embedded in the intake at each booking facility. This started at San Diego Central Jail, and it's since expanded to Vista and to Las Colinas. And what that does is it gets physician level care or physician level evaluations generally within the first 24 hours of a person being in our custody. The other contract that we enacted in 2024 was with the United Nursing, it's United Nursing International, and that was to supplement our mental health clinicians on top of our recruiting efforts. So the mental health clinician position is a hard to fill position in the county of San Diego, and we've onboarded 4 full-time clinicians from uni and 5 part-time clinicians. The next agenda item I have is the continuity of care in regards to patients on methadone. So in January of 2024, we established a continuity of care model for those who are arrested on methadone in the community, to where we receive notification from the incarcerated person. We receive confirmation that they are on methadone by a community provider. That community provider is able to deliver methadone to our facility. We create a courtesy dosing weekly. And then there's also a nexus to reentry back into the community so that they can stay with that same community provider. Another agenda item I have for medical services is the Medi-Cal transformation, or also known as the CalAIM project. In August of 2024, the implementation plan for that was approved, and we're in the final stages of the readiness plan to submit to the state. And we look to start that process with CalAIM in early 2026. Just some statistical information. During the calendar year of 2024, we dispensed 327,000 prescriptions, not medications, not individual medications, but prescriptions for individuals in our custody. We conducted 390 sick calls, and that includes physician sick calls, psychiatrists, nurses, dentists. Over the course of that year, we sent approximately, or a little bit over, 2,600 individuals to the hospital when their medical need exceeded what we were capable of handling in our custody. This is when we would send these incarcerated people to the hospital. 39%, I know it says 37, but it's 39% of that population was sent via 911, and then the other 61% was sent via deputy car to local hospitals. Also in 2024, we serviced 4,700 individuals with our medication-assisted treatment program, and that's identifying people that have substance use disorder, getting them on medication, and then offering them therapy. The therapy is optional. So if they don't take the therapy, then they're not included in this statistic right here. But if they take the medication and then they also take the counseling, the therapy piece, they're included in this number. Next, I'd like to discuss the future planning for medical services division. So we're currently out for bid for a new radiology contract. Our current provider is NavCare, and NavCare is also our comprehensive provider for medical services. When we signed or finalized our comprehensive contract with NavCare in 2022, radiology just wasn't a piece of that. So now we're back out for bid for that contract, but they're going to continue to serve as our contractor until that bid is done. We're in the final stages of finalizing our JBCT contract, our jail-based competency treatment program contract with the Department of State Hospitals. And that's a program that we've had for several years, and it's just a renewal of that contract with collaboration from State Hospital. One of our goals, and I'm glad it's been brought up several times today, is to obtain the National Commission of Correctional Healthcare accreditation. We're in the beginning phases of auditing our processes and finding out how we can obtain this accreditation on both the medical front and the mental health front. The next bullet there is the Tech Care upgrade. So Tech Care is our electronic health record system that is proprietarily owned by NavCare. This is the system that all medical charting goes in, any kind of appointment setting goes in. There's an upgrade for that, which is going to encompass the billing component for for CalAIM. And then it's also going to go to a cloud-based system, which will give us a little bit more ability to draw data out of the Tech Care system and be able to analyze and manipulate the data so that we can have better performance metrics with our Tech Care system. In July of this year, so next month, we are going to be piloting a continuous glucose monitoring system at one of our facilities. Our goal is to target type 1 diabetics that are insulin dependent, and it's something that we haven't done in the facilities before. Generally, if a diabetic individual comes into our custody, they get the finger sticks during nursing rounds or whenever it's necessary, and that's how we monitor blood sugar. But with this system, just like in the community, they would be offered, and it's with their consent, the constant glucose monitoring system, and then that would be on the sensor would be sent to a receiver 1-to-1, and then as nurses are doing their rounds, that sensor will pick up that receiver, and then we'll be able to get immediate blood sugar readings. And this will also avoid people from being stuck multiple times. Additional future planning is more infrastructure building with the medical services division. There's been a vacancy in the lieutenant position there. And there's also we have a desire to staff a standards and compliance manager on the medical services division side. Both of these things will bolster the infrastructure and allow us better supervision, NTCHC pursuit, and other projects that might arise in medical services division. Switching gears to mental health, and that'll be the next slide. I'd like to discuss MAT. So our medication assisted treatment program began in 2023. We implemented dedicated MAT clinicians in 2023, and those clinicians now serve Vista Detention Facility, Las Colinas, the San Diego Central Jail, and George Bailey. These clinicians create therapeutic interventions that help get to the root of the addiction, and it is supplemented by the medication that's provided by our providers. Going back on the contract end for mental health services, in the last 2 years, we engaged in a contract with Liberty Healthcare to establish early access stabilization services, also known as EASE. In summary, when an incarcerated person is deemed in need of restoration by the court and the court places a 1370 hold on the individual, that information goes to the Department of State Hospitals. The Department of State Hospitals tells us that this person needs to either go to state hospital or our jail-based competency treatment program. There may be lag time in getting them into one of those programs based on state hospital population or JBCT population. This early access stabilization system allows us to provide individuals that are waiting for those beds with nursing assessments, psychiatry services, mental health clinician visits, and anything that would aid in the restoration for the individual. Earlier, I talked about the hard to fill mental health clinician positions. And what we did was about 1.5 years ago, we started a case manager to mental health clinician career path opportunity. So people who were needing hours and were unlicensed clinicians at the time, they can be hired as sheriff's employees as a case manager. Those case managers all work under the license of a certified licensed mental health clinician that's employed by the sheriff's department as well. As they gain hours and as they take their the test for their license, then they can be converted into a licensed mental health clinician. So this is also one of those recruiting efforts that we made to try to get that hard to fill mental health clinician vacancies filled. Last year, we recertified both of our Letterman Petrus Short facilities, which is based the PSUs at both Las Colinas and San Diego Central Jail. And lastly, we are expanding our outpatient step-down program. It was recently moved, the program in its entirety was moved from San Diego Central Jail to George Bailey Detention Facility, and that gave us the opportunity to increase the bed space for that programming piece. Just a few statistics on the mental health front. In the calendar year 2024, there were 106 appointments and patients seen, 106,000, my apologies, for initial psychiatric appointments, QMHP, which is qualified mental health professional initial appointments, follow-up psychiatric appointments, and then follow-up qualified mental health professional appointments. The average wait time for an individual to see a qualified mental health professional, if it's non-urgent, it's just, I need to see somebody and it's not a pressing, it's not a expression of suicidal ideations or anything like that, is 1.5 days. On average, throughout the whole county, we average 36 safety cell placements per month. And that's out of all facilities. And then the number that we all strive to have is the 0 suicides in 2024. And the last suicide that we had in custody and at the sheriff's department was 22 months ago. Some of the future planning that we have for mental health, and that's going to be we're currently working with the Behavioral Health Services at HHSA to establish a memorandum of understanding for care court. This is also, it's geared at transition back into the community. We're also expanding our psychiatric services to both the South Bay Detention Facility and Rock Mountain Detention Facility. We are expanding as of as of July next month. We're going to be expanding our MAT programming to the San Diego Central Jail. Right now, there's a very intense, robust MAT program at the Vista Detention Facility where it's an entire module and they receive hours of programming a day to help with the addiction treatment portion of it. We are providing one-on-one services to people that are outside of that facility. But now we're able to expand that to San Diego Central Jail, where they'll be in classroom settings. And we're working with our reentry services team as well as our mental health staff to provide that opportunity for other people. I also added the NCCHC certification on the mental health end here, and I already discussed that earlier. And then lastly, one of our plans moving forward is to build a more robust performance metric system so that we are able to clearly analyze data and make changes as necessary. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. And are there any questions?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Thank you, Commander Johns. We are going to go to board comments and questions. I would appreciate the information. I'm sure that there's many board members who have questions, and then after that, we will go to public comment. Brett, if you could please help me call on board members who wish to ask a question.
All right, Dr. Brown.
Thank you for the presentation, Commander. Could you expand a little bit more on the outpatient step-down program that was, I believe, implemented last month?
So the outpatient step-down program it's been in our bureau. We've been doing the outpatient step-down program for years. It's just moving from Central Jail to George Bailey. Mental health clinicians conduct evaluations on individuals, and if they feel that they need more of a programming piece, they're not necessarily at the point where they're non-restorable, but they might need more therapy. We try to consolidate that so that we can put recreational therapists in the module to help conduct programs, or more intense therapy with our clinicians. So those housing units are completely dedicated for that. So they're not mixed in with other general population incarcerated people. Central Jail was limited, and it's also our largest booking facility. So it's very difficult to intake a large population and then still have robust programming at that facility. So we felt it best to move to George Bailey, to where it's a more static environment. It's a housing facility. And then we provide the same services that we would at San Diego Central Jail, but we just have more opportunities for people to enter into that program. And the goal is to progressively stabilize from a mental health standpoint and go back into general population safely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Nadia, please. Ms. Kinayoub.
So I have several questions, so bear with me. I have a question. How many people do you have working in mental health that are actually actively doing these appointments?
As far as mental health clinicians, like how many clinicians do I have? Yeah. I don't have an answer for you on that one, but I can get it for you via email, if that would be okay. I don't have
106,000 comes out to 291 appointments a day. So I'm just trying to see how long these appointments are being held, what they consist of.
Yes, ma'am.
Because 291 is quite a bit.
It is. So that includes psychiatric providers. It doesn't just include our clinicians. So it includes our uni providers, our sheriff's mental health clinicians, our the psychiatrists that we work with, and then also the MAT psychiatrists. And I can tell you that I'm already doing an analysis for to try to maximize the way that we have our deputies be able to escort some clinicians to IPs. And just a small example of that was one deputy at San Diego Central Jail will escort 18 different providers on one day to see 83 patients at one facility. So that 291 isn't out of the realm of possibility.
So you understand my concern with 291 averaging a day is that if they are seeing so many, there is a higher chance that things will slip through. They may not catch something when they are interviewing people, which will later lead to potentially something that could be more dangerous, correct? If they miss that somebody is presenting something that's mentally unwell because they are masking or because they are not forthright with what is going on, they may miss that, and that person may be placed in general population and later on get harmed because they're around other people and are in fight or flight mode.
Was that a question?
It's more of a, do you understand my concern with so many appointments?
Yes, I understand your concern. I think that's an assumption. I would hate to speak to that being a fact, and I could definitely get you the numbers for staffing if you'd like for each facility. I can give you a breakdown to show you what the staffing levels look like.
Okay, and then in comparison to the 36 safety cells, do you find that that is not capable for the amount of people that you're seeing or the amount of people that require help?
What do you mean capable? Can you clarify, please?
Are you full?
On safety cells?
Yes.
Absolutely not. No. If that safety cell number is drastically reduced in the last 4 years when we initiated our detention safety protocol or program. Before that program was initiated, we had hundreds of safety cells a month, and now it's very seldom. So a facility like San Diego Central Jail might have one every 3 days. So that number has been reduced, but that's because of the implementation of the enhanced observation housing units, and then the more robust services that we provide from the mental health clinicians, being able to assess somebody not necessarily being suicidal, but they might be in a different state of distress to where we can manage it differently.
So what are the requirements to be placed in a safety cell?
Actively suicidal or homicidal?
Okay. I'm going to relent to somebody else. I do have other questions, but I'll relent to somebody else.
Okay.
I have another question after everyone else has.
Ms. Fasano?
I have a question. I recently took a tour of the Central Jail, and we saw a unit that was for pretrial individuals who hadn't been determined mentally competent to stand trial. So they had to go through some certification process, I guess, for the judge. I'm not sure who orders that they go through that process before they can stand trial. And I understand there's no time limit to that. Are you responsible, or who is responsible for staffing that unit and making those determinations? Is that part of the mental health program?
Well, thank you for asking the questions. I believe you're talking about our jail-based competency treatment program. Does that sound familiar?
I'm just telling you what
Yes,
the function.
I think that's where we're at. So
Can stand trial and understand the
correct.
proceedings.
So the sheriff's department doesn't make that determination of who goes into that program. They have to be deemed 1370 by the courts. Once the courts relay that information to the Department of State Hospital, Department of State Hospitals will determine whether that person needs to go to state hospital or whether they can stay in our custody for restoration. We staff that, but it's in contract with our NAV care providers. So we have permanent deputies assigned to that housing unit because there's 8 to 10 hours of programming, intense programming in that housing unit, but it's also overseen by Department of State Hospitals. So it's a Department of State Hospital function that NAV care oversees as part of our contract, but NAV care pays for the deputy sheriffs that are working that unit. I hope that clarifies.
Mr. Mendelson?
I was just going to say that there's a 1368 proceeding where a judge is questioning whether the person is mentally competent to understand the nature of the proceedings and assist in their defense. And what happens is the prosecution and defense typically appoint their own experts. The experts write reports, comes back, and then the judge makes a determination of whether that person's competent or whether they goes. And I guess that's where the 1370s come from.
Yes, sir.
Only thing I would add to that, again, we were told that there's some type of certification process that takes place within the jail.
It wouldn't be a sheriff's function to determine who goes into that module. It would be based on,
But to decide when they can complete the program and go to court?
So that would be dependent on those clinicians' assessments from NavCare or the psychiatrists that are working hand in hand in that module, saying, I think that this person is ready to attend court to see if he's competent to stand trial. Those assessments I can't really speak to. I'm not knowledgeable on that process. That could be somebody from the NavCare side of the house.
Real quick question, NavCare. I know there's a NavCare associated with military and medical care. I'm assuming this is something different and apart from that?
I am assuming so too. I'm not familiar with our NavCare contractor being embedded in the military, so I can't speak to that.
I think it's NAFCare, actually, Jim, not NavCare.
It's not NAV, correct, ma'am.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
NAPH.
Yeah.
That answers it.
Yeah.
Chair Pintar?
Yes, my question is maybe more practical, and it goes maybe beyond a little bit beyond intake, but really originates at intake. So some of the cases that we have reviewed in the past, some of the people that have come and spoken during public comments, some of these family members have said, we called 911 because our loved one was in crisis. They were in a mental health crisis, or maybe it could have been drug related, and they thought they were getting help, but instead they ended up being arrested and incarcerated and detained. I'm wondering if someone is in a mental health crisis, and I've asked this question before, but I would like to hear how you would process this. And they're in a serious mental health crisis, and they've been determined to be a threat to themselves, to others, so they can't just be referred to, say, a mental health practitioner appointment. Like, what is the process for determining what level of care they need, and how do you who do you refer them to within the jail system to get the assistance they need, because they are reacting violently, or they are a threat because of their mental health challenge. So I understand that they need to be held somewhere or detained somewhere so they don't hurt themselves or others. But who do they see first to figure out how they can be treated or assessed for this mental health crisis?
Thank you. I can speak to that.
Thank you.
When an individual comes into custody, and let's say they're not actively vocalizing a harm to self, a harm to others, when they're screened by the nurse, the medical nurse, the nurse is going to ask questions related to mental health. If one of those questions is triggered, then that nurse is going to contact a licensed mental health clinician, or also known as a qualified mental health professional, to come down and assess the individual immediately. That's one avenue. If the person does come in and they're obviously in mental distress, then the qualified mental health clinician would just immediately be notified and come down and assess. So once that qualified mental health professional makes that assessment, they're the ones that are determining where that person goes next in the process. If that person is vocalizing suicidal ideations right now and has the ability to carry those out, that clinician might recommend a safety cell. If they aren't vocalizing anything, but may have made a statement to the arresting officer, and the arresting officer said, hey, he claimed suicidal ideations when he was in the car, and then he shuts down in intake, for example, that mental health professional might decide to put him in enhanced observation housing, which is different. Just to let time go by, stress go by, any kind of, sometimes there's drug-induced psychosis or under the influence of alcohol that might be hindering their normal thought process, to give them that time for another reevaluation and a reassessment to see if they can clear that person from that type of protocol.
And is the enhanced observation housing is different than the PSU, right?
Correct.
Okay. And when would you send somebody to, say, like the county psychiatric hospital? Not at some point, if they're not considered a threat any longer? Or when does that come into play? I'm just trying to figure out, what are the options for people who are in clear mental health crisis and distress? And if it weren't for that, they probably wouldn't be someone who should be in jail. I don't know when you send them to the hospital instead of putting them in jail. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Now, there's two different venues. I think an arresting officer is separate from the Detention Services Bureau, so I want to clarify that first. But if an arresting officer notices somebody in clear mental health distress, they can go to county mental health before they come to the jail. They can go to county mental health to get an evaluation and an assessment prior to coming to the jail.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I just want to be clear that the arresting officer makes that decision about where to take them.
They can, or they can have a PERT clinician inside of their car, which many officers do. And then that PERT clinician can recommend going to county mental health as well. When the Detention Service Bureau mostly gets wrapped up in the transport to county mental health is upon release. So if a person is no longer needed by the judicial system or his case has been adjudicated and he is in clear distress and we don't have a legal reason to hold him as the sheriff's department, we will courtesy transport him to county mental health, or her, whoever it may be, to county mental health. That way we're providing a safer environment than just releasing somebody to the streets because we don't have any lawful right to hold them anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Kina.
The statistical information that's medical. I broke it down. I like smaller numbers. To 2,611 sendouts, that equals 7 a day. 39% is 1,018.29. 0.29 people sent via 911 to the emergency room. That's approximately 3 ambulances a day. Can you advise me what are the requirements with each interaction for the medical staff? Are they required to document every single interaction they have with an inmate? And is it detailed or is it simply updates? And where is that documented?
Can I clarify a couple of things? So we're talking away from the statistics right now, right? So
I was just breaking it down because it makes more sense to me to understand if it's an issue or if it's just standard. And so I was looking at the numbers to understand that it's 3 ambulances a day, approximately 7 people being transported a day from the jails. I understand this is all the jails, correct? This is not
correct. So you're talking with
one.
Yeah, you're talking with an average daily population in the county right now of 4,300, all 7 jails. There's going to be incidents wherever it may occur where we may have to send somebody for a higher level of care to the hospital. And then the second part of the question was, do the nurses document every interaction?
What are the requirements? That's what I want to know. Not do they or don't they. I want to know what the requirements they have to document each interaction with the inmates and where is that kept?
Okay. As not being a mental health or a medical professional and not being trained in their policies and procedures and the type of work that they do, I can't speak to that, but I can get you an answer with an email after I consult with our medical professionals.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Dr. Brown?
I just have a comment, man. My hat goes off to you all because I've been around long enough to see this transformation or transition from mental hospitals to treating people with these challenges in jails. And I don't think it's fair to you all to have to deal with that, but nevertheless, that's where we are now. This alternative to incarceration group, I think you guys, I hope you all can find some kind of way to work together because it's a very challenging thing that you all are beginning to do with this mental health thing. So thank you. I don't have any questions. I just have a comment because it's a challenge, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Ariana?
Thank you. Do you know how much like the percentage of the budget goes into investing in mental health, medical services?
I couldn't give you a percentage of the budget. No, I don't know how it's divvied up from an analytical standpoint. I can get you that information as well.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
And are you talking about a percentage of the Detention Services Bureau budget or
Yeah.
the percentage of the sheriff's budget overall?
I think both would be helpful to know, but I think just in how much is invested in the mental health,
No
medical
problem.
services. Thank you.
Chair Pinter, that's the end of the questions.
Okay, I just wanted to ask if Norris or someone else on the CLERB staff could make sure that they review the transcript from our meeting and make note of the questions that the board members raised that Commander Johns said that he would get back to us on, so we can get those answers. And I would like the answers for us to maybe present them, Brett, at a future meeting, because I think that it's helpful for us to get the answers. And I appreciate the sheriff's office has been responding to these questions as we, provide them after the meeting, but I want them shared with the public as well. So,
Chair Pinter, I'm actually documenting those questions right now, and so I
Perfect.
will keep those, and then you will note later today with probation, we're going to be getting some answers from questions there that they should be able to present to the entire board today.
okay, and then as long as we can do the same with these questions at the last meeting. And I want to thank our presenter for being with us today and for the information. Thank you for answering our
Thank you for your
questions.
time. Thank you.
Okay, there is public comment available after this presentation. So Norris, have you received speaker slips? I forgot to, and I apologize to the public. I should have reminded you to submit your speaker slips prior to the presentation for public comment, but I'm going to assume that you have a few, Norris, and you can start with those now.
Yes, correct, Ms. Chair Pinter. So first I have Paloma Serna. Okay, Yusuf, he already submitted his request, so with this extra 2 minutes, I believe it's going to be 4.
Sorry, I couldn't hear the whole conversation. Did Mrs. Serna cede her time to Yusuf, so he's going to have 4 minutes? Is that what you said?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
This is Yusef Miller with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And we just heard the presentation on NAFCARE, and NAFCARE is the problem. NAFCARE is the problem. NAFCARE has been cited for poor patient care, staffing, lawsuits from other states, faulty equipment, failure to implement protocol, indifference, and neglect of people. So when we see all these issues that happen in our in-custody deaths, we see that NAFCARE has been the problem. And for some reason, our county will not get rid of NAFCARE. NAFCARE needs to be kicked out of the door. That's NAPH care. I was in the Navy, so NAVCARE, I know NAVCARE. I'm a veteran just like my brother here, who's Corporal Rodriguez. So this is what we see. And how do we see this? We see this in Elisa Serna, who did not receive the proper protocol, and she was only in jail for 5 days, and she lost her life at the neglect of mental health doctors and nurses. We see Vienna Grinnell. She had the same neglect, almost the exact same issue when she lost her life. Omar Moreno Arroyo and Lonnie Looper and Saxon Rodriguez, all failure in intake to look at what's actually going on with these men, and they lost their lives. Kevin Bach did not receive his insulin, even though his machine is beeping on his body, the machine on his body, and inmates are banging, saying, hey, answer this bell for the insulin. And they wouldn't let the wife, bring in the insulin from home. And they didn't give him his insulin. He died. Michael Wilson, the judge said, this man has a congenital heart defect. Please make sure he gets all of his medications. It was a regimen. A judge wrote the letter to the jail. He did not get his regimen, far lower than a small percent of his medication, and he died from that. Gilbert Gill, an intake. He shouldn't have been arrested in the first place. He should have been directed to the hospital and kept there. And once they received him in Vista, he should have been transferred right back to the hospital, given his signs and symptoms. Kevin Mills, Matthew Settles, and Raymond Vogelman, they had mental health issues. They We have another case with Raymond Vogelman where even when he was in a fight that broke out in the jails, the medical attention that he needed to get to save his life, he could have survived if he would have got proper medication and those bells were working. And Frankie Greer, thank God Frankie Greer survived. He's another veteran who was in the custody, and he had a seizure condition. He said, "Do not put me on the top bunk because I have a seizure condition." And they said, "We'll get your seizure medication to you when we get it to you." They put him on the top bunk. He seized off into the concrete and went into a coma. Thank God he came out. We had another man this year who also seized off the bunk and cracked his skull open. They had to release some of the bone material so that his brain could swell and not be compressed to kill him. He died anyway. So we know NAFCARE, and NAFCARE is the problem. Just today, when we came here earlier in public comment, Paloma Serna read off 4 complaints with booking numbers to people's families who've been calling out to us before we got here. They know we come here every month. They like, look, my family member, and they were all medical issues. We just read them just today. And battery, my remaining seconds, also battery on NAFCARE for their staff. Now, we know Elisa Serna lost her life in the protocol not being followed, and Danalee Pasquale, the nurse, was part of that. But Danalee Pasquale was also part of the attack on Jennifer Schmidt. And while we were protesting, a woman walked by and said, "Danalee Pasquale, you're talking about Nurse Pasquale? When I was incarcerated, she beat me up too." So where is how do you hold them accountable if this is going on in NAFCARE, and all these years we continue to hold NAFCARE as our facility or our program? Please get rid of NAFCARE. Throw them in the trash.
Thank you. Next, I will start calling the online request to speak. First, I will call Darwin Fishman.
Good evening. Thank you. Following what Yusuf just said, the presentation, and this is common for CLERB, is if you listen carefully, it basically says that everything is fine and perfect. We got it. We've got the staffing, and you'd never expect that the issues that Yusuf just listed off would exist in the jail. There's always a real disconnect. It's the spin that unfortunately the county gives and through the sheriff's department about the conditions in the jail. And CLERB, as you know, that's not very useful for you guys because you guys actually have to be grounded in reality because you actually get these complaints and you listen and see these families, and you know that the approach and path we're on right now is not sustainable. If you just take even the lawsuits and the millions of dollars the county is paying out, it just doesn't make any sense. There's much better models and much better approach for dealing with mental health, starting with the premise that a jail is not a good place. It's not a good service provider. Given that, trying to tinker around the edges with staff and having more medical professionals ultimately won't do it. And we know that the source of the problems, again, like the cases that were just listed, is the sheriff deputies were involved in all of those. It's not simply that the jails are run by the medical staff and make the decisions about who to see and when to see and what type of care is provided. So it doesn't make any sense. It's a non-starter to say that this population, and to also increase this population and put them in the jail system. So again, CLERB, I hope that you not just do due diligence in terms of complaints that are filed, but to go above and beyond and talk to those that are responsible, like the supervisors, like the sheriff and other entities, about this problem and the complexities of it, not a simplistic thing about just staffing for the jails. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Tammy. Tammy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. This is regarding my husband, Omar Marino Arroyo, who died January 6th of 2021. And this question is for the commander, actually. You stated that once a person is determined that they shouldn't be in jail if they're having a mental health crisis, that you send them to the hospital. Well, I know for a fact that's incorrect because that's not what happened to my husband. He was never sent to a hospital. He was arrested straight out of our house on a false charge while he was having a mental health crisis. Once he was there, they realized, well, he shouldn't have been there because it was a false charge and they were going to have him released. Well, that took almost 8 hours in itself. And after that 8 hours is when my husband died. So I think that's bullshit. Thank you.
Serpentine, and that concludes the request to speak for item number 5. I have one comment, written comment submitted from Robin Sales to be read for the public, if you allow me to start.
Yes, please.
The mental health intake is the most critical piece of behavioral health care. Its purpose is to assess current mental status, including suicidal, homicidal ideation, identify current and past treatment, medication, and develop treatment plans. It is an essential prevention tool. Social workers and psychiatric nurses use this tool to effectively triage, preventing crisis and unnecessary in-custody deaths. Demand intakes for all IPs, and that's the end of the comments. With that, that concludes the request to speak and the comments for item number 5.
Thank you. I'm gonna I asked that specific question of our presenter tonight about who decides where someone is directed and what the options are, because I've asked this before and I'm just talking about it again here because I'd like to work with Mr. Kleina and maybe my board colleagues to figure out how we take maybe a deeper dive and a harder look into how these decisions are made and how what other options could be available, because I do think this is at the heart and the root of many of the toughest cases that we've reviewed. And I know I'm sort of speaking out of turn here, but I just feel very strongly about it. So I wanted to say that before we moved on to item number 6. Let's move on to item number 6, our executive officer's report. Mr. Kleina, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. I have some updates regarding our staff. Our new special investigator, Adam Nolan, has been here now 1 month. This will be his first meeting, and we're excited to bring him on, and he'll get a chance to meet the board tonight and introduce himself. And then next week, we have our second and last round of interviews for the administrative secretary position. And so we're excited about that and finding somebody who can get on board with us. I want to give everyone on the board and to the public an update of where we are on D4's request to increase jurisdiction for CLERB in regards to in-custody deaths. Due to some issues in the timing with the budget for the county, the Board of Supervisors has requested us to return back in August. And specifically, we're generally on the schedule for August 26th to go back and present the new rules and regulations and potentially new ordinance based upon the meet and confer that has happened between CLERB and the unions. And I can say that we are done now with meet and confer. There are just a couple of minor changes that SEIU requested in regards to the medical providers, the healthcare providers. And so we will submit that. We've already submitted a draft to the county for their ordinance, and then we will be sending that out to you in short order, and then we will take that up in August. If we do have a recess in July, we'll take that up in August. And the reason why we have to do it in this process is that both the board letter states that we have to respond in 60 days. And because the board isn't taking anything until August 26th, we would be over the deadline. And so they've asked us to push that back until August. And then we will also be providing the board with a draft of our annual report, which has not gone out. We'll be looking at statistics all the way from 2022 through 2024, and that will be presented to the board also in the next little while for the board to ingest that and make any suggestions or comments regarding that annual report. And you'll get plenty of time, and we'll hopefully approve that at the same time so we can submit it to the Board of Supervisors around the same time that we do the rules and regulations. There is a chance that the Board of Supervisors can either potentially take up the vote on August 26th. It depends on whether or not the Board of Supervisors asks for additional information, clarification, anything that might need a little more time. But if everything is in order and they wanted to, they could take the vote as early as August 26th. Don't put that in writing because I don't know the answer, because I don't know how they will respond that day, but that would be very soon for us. So lots of back and forth will be had between now and then, and we're looking forward to presenting that in front of the Board of Supervisors.
Great.
We are in discussions with facilities management to find some new space within this building. Many of the board members know we are very cramped in our space, and especially with the potential of this new jurisdiction and increasing our staff size, we have been in some requests to look for additional space, and they've been very accommodating to us, showed us some spaces, and we're excited about the opportunity to move. It's not going to be for some time, but we're excited about that opportunity and new space, including potentially a new room like this. That would be an additional space so that we wouldn't have to worry about scheduling as well. So many different conflicts for just using this one room. Obviously, it's budget season for the county. Everything is budget right now. We expect we're not 100% sure if the Board of Supervisors will vote on the 24th or push it off for a second in July when a potential new Board of Supervisor will be elected. But everybody's in the middle of that season. I would let you know that we basically stayed unchanged from the last year's budget to this year's budget. I think it's a slight increase, which is a bit of a change for many of the departments within the county. We have amended this debt study contract. We are now approaching any day where we'll start receiving the mini reports from that debt study. We will give our approval for those mini reports. And at some point in time between now and hopefully August timeframe, at least we have some type of workable draft that we can start working on. That may not make it to the public for a period of time, but what we plan to do is once it's finalized, we will get that debt study out. We will give all the other parties involved opportunities to review it and respond to it. That includes the sheriffs, the public, anybody involved with that process. And so that may take some time. And then we will also invite the authors of that study to come here and answer your questions. And we are getting closer on a case management system. It's a very lengthy process within the county. That's another thing that we are very excited about because our system is quite antiquated and we really need a new system, and we're excited about the process, and it'll cut down a lot on the administrative work that our special investigators have to do in these cases. It will also hopefully provide an avenue for us to create our own dashboard that we can put right on our website and have up-to-date information. We would love to do that now. We do not have that capability with our current system. And so that's one of the things we're looking into and excited about. Wanted to thank Saving Lives in Custody for their recent outreach event with BSCC. It's always nice to come and listen to the families and the presenters and get the perspectives from a lot of different people. I always welcome those opportunities, so please keep them coming. If you hear about things from the community, we want to be there and participate in any way if we can. So we thank you for that. We had 2 civil service hearings. These are my first 2 civil service hearings since I've been here, so it's been a long time on a couple of cases, and we hope by September to have answers on those civil service hearings. So we have 1 more next week, those 3, and that our docket's pretty clean now on civil service hearings. And so hopefully we'll be able to report back on all 3 in September. They're expected to meet sometime in August to verify the decisions. And then we're going to talk about Assembly Bill 847. I want to give a little bit of background on it before we get started. Assembly Bill 847 basically extends existing confidential access to peace officers' disciplinary records to oversight boards that are mandated by counties or by the state to have access the same as grand juries, the DA's office, those types of organizations that already have access to those. And before the board takes that up later today, and I know we'll have public comment, I just want to say that, how does that affect CLERB, right? Taking a look at the disciplinary records of the officers. Yes, CLERB has had the ability to make a recommendation on punishment or whatever that, anything to that effect with what we rule on as the board. But this will allow us to actually see what's happening. Without knowing what the history is, it doesn't quite make sense for the board, for example, to make a recommendation on that decision. Say, let me give you an example. If an officer, it's his first time, it's a minor violation, the impact that might not be as great. But we don't know that. So what if it's the 3rd time, the 4th time, the 5th time? That's where this board could take that into consideration and decide at that point in time to make a recommendation. Again, reminding everybody that it is a recommendation only, that there's no actual authority to impose that on the peace officer. And then case updates, we had 13 new cases, and we're going to be reviewing 8 were closed last time, where numbers stayed about the same, about 131 open investigations, and then we will be handling 11 investigations in today's closed session. That's it for me, Chair.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for you. And then do you not have the body worn camera letter of concern on your agenda for today?
Yep, I just turned my page and realized that.
Okay, before you do that though, Brett, if you don't mind, I just have a couple of questions. You talked about the budget, that the CLERB's staff budget was basically unchanged other than maybe a minor boost. If we are fortunate enough to have our expanded jurisdiction measure, and just to clarify for the public, at the very beginning of Brett's report, he said, he talked about the D4 proposal, and that the work with the meet and confer process with the unions was complete, and it would require their requests required to make a few changes. So again, just to remind everybody, this is Supervisor Montgomery's STEP proposal to expand CLERB's jurisdiction to include medical. And in her proposal, it's to start with, it's only in death cases for now. That does require additional resources for CLERB. And this is why I wanted to ask you, Brett, if the ordinance, if we are fortunate enough to have the ordinance move forward in August, how would that, because it will require additional resources for us, we are definitely going to need to contract with medical experts, I believe. Think we all agree. When would we have the opportunity to go back and get those additional resources? I know that you wrote a letter to the Board of Supervisors about this, and I just followed up with a couple of the members about it. What's the timeline on that?
We don't have to go back because
Okay.
we've already been approved by our FG3 to, if the ordinance and our rules and regulations go into effect and we have additional jurisdiction, we will be entitled to automatically get 2 new full-time employees and an additional $200,000 to $300,000 in contract money to hire the subject matter experts. That's already written into this.
It's been accounted for. It's part of the FGG, which is the Finance and Government something group. I always forget the 3G group.
Finance in general.
Finance in general government. Thank you. My next question is, can you please make sure that when we take a look at the annual report that you're putting together for us, I want to see if you could please re-up, or maybe Naris can do this for us. We had, at the end of last year, we put out a request to the public to tell us what they wanted us to prioritize. And I just want to see how those priorities that the public provided to us matches up with our annual plan. And then finally, I think I had another question, but I'm not remembering what it is right now. So we can move on to, okay, go ahead.
Just to answer that, we will be incorporating that website information that we obtained. That will be included into the annual report.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I don't want to forget that we have submitted a letter of concern to the sheriff about the body-worn camera violations. I don't know if it was attached to the agenda because, as you know, I've been out of town with my brother in the hospital all week. So I don't know if the public has access to that letter, and I want to make sure that they do.
Yes, they do have access. It was posted on our website as an attachment for today's meeting. And I have explained that in this case, the discussion that was had in preparation for this letter of concern regarding the body-worn camera occurred during closed session, which is why we are not having open or community input on that particular letter. I can just say that this was sent out in April after the April meeting. We haven't seen a response at this time, but we did document the recent body-worn camera violations that we have noted over the last 6 months. And then the other information is that after last month's meeting, we did send one policy recommendation that is also attached, and that is in regards to R1 for reclassification and making sure that for reclassification, any employee who receives information that could change an incarcerated person's classification code and or housing assignment has the responsibility of advising a JPMU deputy in writing. And those are the 2 words that we added in our policy recommendation.
Thank you. And is that on our website so people can see it as well?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Does anyone else on the board have a question for our executive officer before we move on to the next item? I can't see you, so I'm going to assume that's a no because I haven't heard anything.
That's a no.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 7, board chair's report. I'll keep it fairly quick. I frequently, members of the public, when they're speaking in public comment, say, why aren't you board members doing X, Y, and Z? For example, making these recommendations, such as the policy recommendation that has some connection to some of the cases we reviewed regarding how classifications for incarcerated people are documented. This letter of concern regarding body-worn camera violations that became a letter that the media has reported on. I have also myself met with members of the Board of Supervisors to again urge support for the policy change that Supervisor Montgomery Stepp has recommended. I met with Supervisor Lawson Reamer about this, as well as the concerns that I continue to have about how we are providing mental health care services in our jails. And I had something else and I lost track of it because I'm looking at too many different screens at one time. But I'll leave it at that. And if I remember it, I'll bring it up in our board member comments. But then let's move on to item number 8, which is new business. And this is the letter of support. Oh, that was the other item. I've been in contact with Assemblymember Sharp Collins' office about the timing for when Assembly Bill 847 moves to the next level of committee consideration. And that is what prompted us to make sure that we got it on the agenda tonight so the board could vote on it as a whole. Again, I think Mr. Klein had mentioned that last month we were notified too late in order to bring it to the board to agendize it so we could vote as a board to send a letter in time for the first hearing, but there are other hearings and we got word about the timing of those, and that is why it's on tonight's agenda. And Brett, I will turn it back over to you.
Yes, I did get an opportunity to share why we believe 847 would be important to CLERB. I think even for other oversight boards that do more of a inspector role or review of IA, that will even be more important for them. But again, I think it just gives you an insight into the history of the individual and also maintaining the confidentiality. So while the CLERB would maybe have the ability to see these confidential files, it would be like most of the other information we see. We cannot share that information out won't be able to share that in our reports. It may be just noted in what you see in the recommendation if the board so chooses. So I know there's questions. Board questions?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and call the others, and then I have a question for you, but I'm happy to go last.
Any of the board members?
Are there board questions on this letter? I believe you all saw a draft letter. Go ahead, Ariana.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if there were any amendments that were made. Yes.
Yes, and I think we accounted for them in our letter. That was part of our conversations with Assemblymember Sharp Collins' office this last month, was in making sure that we knew what changes had been made. And Brett, I'll let you answer the question.
Yeah, there was some minor changes in the amendments, but it didn't change the crux of the bill itself and what access would be given to oversight boards.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Mr. Mendelson.
Are we commenting on how this letter is written?
Yeah, you can, this is the time to make.
On the second sentence, and this is kind of changing happy to glad, but or the second line, it says, which provides sheriff oversight boards and inspectors generals have the same access. I would scratch have and just put the same access. I think it's a lot clearer.
Sounds good.
Anyone else before I ask my question? I like to go last, so you all have a chance before me.
Nothing here.
Okay, so my question, Brett, is I feel like part of, I think it's a challenge to us and it's frustrating to me that sometimes when we sustain a finding against a deputy, and I actually wish that we had more time to explain what happens at civil service and how that's relevant to our findings, but we never know whether there's ever been a disciplinary action taken or the sheriff's office has acted to correct whatever policy violation we find. And just to remind the public, all our findings are limited to when I identify, our investigators and the board identifies a policy violation. There might be things that happen that we don't like, that we wish didn't, but unless we can point to a specific policy that was violated, that's what our findings are limited to, at least as it relates to just the case piece of it. It doesn't mean we can't make other policy recommendations. Will this allow us to know whether there's been action taken on our findings, Brett?
Well, I think it's hard to say because we don't have access and haven't had access to those records. So the timing of that is going to be different because what I envision is that after these events occur, that maybe brings a case to us. IA might be doing their investigation at the exact same time. They might complete their investigation before us, and maybe we would get access to some of those records in that file. But that depends on the timeliness of those same investigations.
Yeah, I understand now that how the timing might not work to that effect, but thank you.
Yeah,
But
Ellen
I do
has a
think,
comment.
okay, go ahead, Ellen.
Also, Chair Pintar, with respect to the police personnel records that would be discoverable by CLERB under this bill, for example, we often have deputies or probation officers that may have more than one matter before CLERB. So theoretically, you could look back at their records and see if sustained findings made against a deputy in a previous case shows up anywhere in their history and their personnel files in a subsequent case. And that would be important, especially if it's same or similar misconduct, because CLERB is specifically authorized in its foundational documents to look at personnel trends. So that may be another tool that CLERB could use with having the benefit of being able to look at these records.
Well, what just occurred to me as I was asking the question and Brett was answering the question is that we really wouldn't have the opportunity to see what the outcome was of a sustained finding in terms of any sort of disciplinary action or correction, because unless that particular deputy came to us again in the future, correct? I mean,
No,
it's not like
necessarily.
Really? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
it depends upon the length of time that IA does their investigations. So if we have not yet subpoenaed the records for a particular case, because remember, we have 1 year time limit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People to bring their complaints. Presumably at that 1 year time limit, if we've waited that long to get the complaint, potentially the IA investigation has already been completed. So when we do subpoena for the records, presumably that would be completed and in the files.
Okay. I won't belabor it anymore. Is there a motion to approve us moving forward with submitting this letter of support to Assemblymember Sharp Collins, Assembly Bill 847? I need a motion and a second, and we would have to acknowledge the edit that Mr. Mendelson has suggested.
With the amendment.
With the scratching the word have in the second line.
Is that a motion, Mr. Mendelson? I don't think if someone else was speaking that please make sure you turn on your microphones because I can't hear you unless you do.
So moved that we make the recommendation per the letter with Mr. Menderson's suggestion that we remove the have.
Thank you. Is there a second?
For the record, that's seconded.
Okay. Mrs. Fasano, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Pintar,
Yes.
Vice Chair Keen-Ayut,
Yes.
Secretary Fasano, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes. Yes.
Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Is absent, the motion passes.
Okay, we will move on to item number 9, new business. Correct? No, unfinished business. I'm sorry. Number 9, unfinished business.
Chair Pintar, we have public comment for.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Norris. I apologize. Let's move to public comment.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
We're talking unfinished.
I thought so too, but I forgot that there is public comment on this item. So let's move to public comment.
Thank you. I have Paloma Serna.
Thank you. I was going to try to sway you guys to support this and stand with Saving Lives in Custody, California and North County Equity Justice Coalition since we submitted bills, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. This bill is exactly what we need, the CLERB, you guys need the power, you deserve to be able to really investigate in custody death, especially when the sheriff department refuses to cooperate and even hand you over documents like probation so you could do your job correctly and give families answer to what truly happened to their loved one. Because right now, families are left with more questions than answered. We're told to wait years. We've been denied evidence, and sometimes the review process doesn't lead to any real accountability. AB 847 would change that. It will allow you to have everything that is needed and show the deputies their pattern and practice. I thank you very much for supporting this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a request to speak from Yusuf Miller, but I don't see, oh, he's back.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Yusef Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. Thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting Dr. Sharp Collins's bill. This is a really important step, and as it impacts your organization, looking into patterns and practices of deputies and probation, we know that when it comes to probation, which we're trying to keep an eye on, and there's another organization called Transparency, Accountability of Probation and Parole that and one of the speakers who spoke earlier, looking at how those incidents against our youth cannot be investigated because there's privacy issues and with the youth and all these kind of things. So hopefully that impacts your work when it comes to that probation area as well. But when it comes to the patterns and practices, like I mentioned before, there are times where you see the same officer, the same deputy involved in traumatic or even death situations. So for example, in Vista, there's the deputies out there, the same deputy that killed one man in a block away killed the same man. A different man, not even a year later in that same one block area. And they had to transfer that person because the community felt that he was a menace, and they started threatening him that he was just, killing people, unarmed people left and right. So when we can see patterns and practices, we could possibly save lives for it to escalate into something worse. So when we see those things, we need to have access to those. I'm trying to bring up the deputies' names, but the people's names, but right now it's escaping me. So thank you for supporting that bill, and we will be watching as you support that at Sacramento.
Thank you. Next, I will call Jock Rodriguez.
Yes, I'd just like to add maybe something that interests CLERB to maybe look into and what's going on with the jails from performance. Something doesn't make sense in these jails with that performance. When 3 years working down at the border as a cell master, we did not have one death in 3 years. There's something that you guys might want to look at down at the border, how they do things. So it might save someone else's life. Additionally, you're talking about you're waiting for the County Board of Supervisors election to come up, and yes, some issues that you need to take up in August, what you were saying, sir. Problem with that is one of my suspects is running for County Board of Supervisors. So how that's going to affect CLERB when it comes to voting or deciding or impacting that being a legitimate vote or approval from the board, Mr. McCann is subject to charges in my case. Additionally, with the fraud, waste, and abuse for ignoring my certifieds. So my complaint to CLERB is going to be under fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm not sure if you guys have that specific area covered in CLERB, but whoever it is, I just need that referral to that person. All right, thank you.
Chair Pintar, and that concludes our request to speak for item number 8.
Okay, now we can move to, I think there's been a motion and a second, and we need a vote. If Adele, if you could please call the roll.
We already voted, Marianne.
We did. Sorry, I can't hear everything, so I apologize. I think I'm a little out of order or out of sorts here, Brett. I'm sorry.
That's all right. The next thing we have is unfinished business, and we have the first item is the nomination and voting for board chair, vice president, and secretary.
Okay, if you could proceed, help me proceed here. I think we turn it over to Dr. Brown and Adele, who are our committee for the nominations.
So, Chair, would you like me to read the script that you have?
I'm looking at the script and it doesn't have anything other than nomination and voting for board chair, vice president, and secretary.
Oh, okay, I will. Would you like me to?
Please help
Okay.
me out here. Sorry.
All right. So will the nominating committee please present their report nominating a new slate of officers?
The nominating subcommittee submits the following nominations. For chair, Marianne Pintar. For vice chair, Adele Fasano and Jim Mendelson. For secretary, Adele Fasano and Jim Mendelson.
Okay. For chair, Marianne has been nominated by the nominating committee. Are there further nominations for chair? Let the reflect that there's no other nominations. And so Mary Ann Pintar is nominated for chair. For vice chair, board member Fasano and board member Mendelson have been nominated by the nominating committee. Are there further nominations for vice chair? Seeing no responses, we will close the nominations, and for vice chair, board members Fasano and Mendelson have been nominated. And if, I apologize, for secretary, board member Fasano and board member Mendelson have been nominated by the nominating committee. Are there further nominations for secretary? All right, not seeing any, we will move forward with those nominated as board member Fasano and board member Mendelson. I'm sorry, did you? Oh. All right. And so now we move to the elections of the board chair. So in this case, the nominee for chair is Marianne Pintar. All those in favor of electing Marianne Pintar to the office of chair, raise your hand.
Don't we need to call the roll?
I'm going to go by the script because I think that's what we have to do.
Okay.
And the ayes have it, 4 votes. So Chair Pintar has been re-elected as chair. Okay, election of the board vice chair. The nominees for vice chair in order that they were nominated. Fasano, we'll start with board member Fasano. All those in favor of electing board member Fasano to the office of vice chair, raise your hand. All those in favor of electing board member Mendelson to the office of vice chair, raise your hand. 3. Yep. Yep.
You got me?
Yep. So that means there's 4 votes for Board Member Mendelson, and he has been elected to the office of. Oh, it's 3 and 2? There was the 4th one. Ariana had her hand. Oh. Did someone not vote? I didn't vote. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I had 3 and I thought that was in there. So if we would repeat that for, we don't have enough votes. It's a majority? Okay. Since we have a quorum, it's the majority? Okay. So by 3 votes to 2, the Board Member Mendelson has been elected to the office of Vice Chair. The nominees for Secretary are Board Member Fasano and Board Member Mendelson, and I believe Board Member Mendelson is now not eligible for the Secretary, so there will just be one nominee for Secretary, and that is Board Member Fasano. All those in favor of electing Board Member Fasano to the office of Secretary, raise your hand. 4. And there was 4 votes, and so Board Member Fasano has been elected to the office of Secretary. And that concludes the nomination and election of board officers.
And they will assume their new roles on July 1st, 2025. Congratulations.
Okay, I believe now we're ready to move on to item number 11, which is board member
Nope.
query. Oh, no?
Hold on. Yeah, we have 9B, which is a board approval for recess for July
Yes,
2025.
I see it. Sorry. I'm not doing a great job here tonight. Okay, let's move on to 9B.
Just as you know, we have been, the special investigators have been working hard on getting the cases done in advance of the July meeting. And therefore, we do not, if we get through all of the cases tonight that are on our agenda, we won't have any that have a pull bar date in July up until the time that we have our August meeting. And so we do have the ability, if the board so chooses, to take a recess in July.
I move that contingent upon us completing all our cases tonight, we recess on the day before Independence Day and re-meet in the first Thursday in August.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Adele, can you please call the roll?
Chair Pintar,
Yes.
Vice Chair Keen Ayub,
Yes.
Secretary Fasano, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, now I believe we are ready to move on to item number 10, which is board member comments. Are there any members of the board that have general comments tonight?
Vice Chair Keen Ayub.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out when I was vice chair. I'm sorry I was not nominated and blocked to continue as vice chair, but I appreciate all the work that I did and I hope to continue as a board member.
Can I say something? I'd like to thank you for all the work you did as a board member and vice chair. I don't understand the block bar, but
Any other comments? No more here, Marianne.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to thank Ms. Keen Ayub for the time that she served as the vice chair and look forward to her continued service on the board here. Let's move to anyone else that has comments.
There's none here.
Then we can move on to item number 11, which is the board member query for sheriff and probation liaison. I can't see who's here tonight, Brett, so I'm going to let you do the honors here.
Both sheriff and probation have their liaisons here today, and I'll let them introduce themselves so you can hear that when they get to the podium.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's Lieutenant Jardura from the Sheriff's Department.
Good evening, and I'm sorry I didn't capture your name.
Sure, it's Lieutenant Jardura from the Sheriff's Department,
Lieutenant Georgera,
Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office. Thank you. I do have a question. Can you explain, or do you know the process for handing off a inmate from the arresting agency to the Sheriff's Department, specifically at Central Jail? Is there communication between the arresting agency on anything that may be of concern with the inmate? Or are they simply handed off to the officers and then taken to intake?
I just want to make sure I understand. You're asking, so for example, if San Diego PD arrests someone and then when they bring them to, let's say, Central Jail, what the process is?
Yes. Do they hand them over? Do they say anything like, we have medical concerns about this person? This person has a deficiency in being able to communicate. This person may have mental health issues. Is there any kind of paperwork that's handed over in that process?
Okay, thanks for clarifying. I understand. So I don't want to speak specifically for outside agencies, but I can just talk in general terms. There's going to be a booking form that they're going to have to fill out. They potentially, again, based on the agency, depending on what has happened during the incident, they may have already taken them to the hospital to be medically cleared. And that hospital medically clears them, and now they're coming to the jail. So that paperwork would accompany the booking form as well. Then when they go through the actual intake process, they get asked questions at intake by the nurse, the booking clerks, everybody that's in intake. They may or may not have passed off information at intake outside of the forms. It certainly could happen. I can't say that I know for sure what they're talking about when they do, but there is definitely a process, especially for anything that anyone would consider would be medical or mental side of it.
And you ask a quick follow-on, if you don't mind?
Yes, of course.
Could you possibly provide us at the August meeting with a copy of the booking form? And I'm assuming that the booking form will be the same, whether the booking agency is San Diego Sheriff's Office or Carlsbad PD or CHP?
I can definitely provide you with the form. I don't know if individual agencies have other forms, but we have a sheriff's intake form. I don't see why not. I'm sure I could ask the other agencies for them.
Can you go back? Because I think one of her questions is where in the process is the inmate transferred from local custody to sheriff's custody? Like where in that whole intake process?
Well, I want to know specifically when they hand over an inmate, if there's a concern such as if they don't speak English, where is that translated to the intaking sheriffs?
That would be during intake at the beginning. So for example, if I brought somebody, they have to answer a bunch of questions, and that would be communicated right at the beginning because they wouldn't be able to answer the questions that were in English. Certain things are in English and Spanish forms, signs, things of that nature. But that would be, I mean, realistically, the arresting officer would tell us, but our intake folks would realize that fairly quickly, or they wouldn't be able to complete the process.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So are the forms digital or physical papers?
Um, it- I don't want to say for sure. Definitely physical forms because people carry them out in their patrol cars. They may be able to download the form digitally, and but I don't know if they can necessarily send it to us. So I'm only familiar with the paper forms.
I'm just trying to imagine like how does that handoff happen?
Oh, sure.
They go with the person that was arrested. I imagine they don't because they're handcuffed. Like what does that handoff look like?
Sure. Let me explain. And I'm not sure who's taken a tour and who hasn't. If you take a tour, you'll see everything clear as day right in front of you. So as soon as they come in, they are with the arresting officer. They don't just walk on their own. They're with them, and they have to go through screening. They have to get checked, all this stuff, and the arresting officer is with them the entire time. They don't actually come into our custody till the intake process has been completed, and now the arresting officer is leaving because at some point our medical staff may determine that they are not fit for booking at this point, and they need to be medically cleared from a hospital. So we turn them away back. Well, I shouldn't say back to, we don't actually take the custody of them. They're still with the arresting officer. And in order for them to book them into the facility, they have to go get a medical clearance paperwork from the hospital. So it's in their hand and they walk the person through the process up until the point where they would get a wristband. We've said, okay, we're gonna take them, and then we eventually take physical custody of them, and then they can leave.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
I want to recognize the folks in the Sheriff's Department who conducted the tour of Central Jail. It was excellent, very informative. During the course of that tour, I observed a room where there was, I think it was some type of control room, where there were a number of cameras footage being displayed. So my question is, I know there's CCTV throughout Central Jail, and I wanted to know, how is that camera footage monitored? Is it done real time?
The short answer is yes, it can be monitored real time. So anyone can pull up. Well, you saw some of the cameras or some of the screens, I would assume. And then through the tour, you saw different cameras on the walls. If someone in control wanted to pull up a specific camera, they could do it. They could pull up any of the cameras really that they wanted to. Please don't quote me. I think we have around 350 cameras. So nobody can sit there and if you're asking someone just sitting in front of all these screens, no. There's people watching the screens, but we don't have 350 screens. They would have to pick and choose, I guess, depending on what's going on or what they want to look at.
So if something of a suspicious nature is going on in one of the areas of the jail that's covered by CCTV, how do the sheriffs know that?
Well, again, I'm depending on the incident, the deputies might be right there. So they might be involved with it. There's the radio. There could be professional staff, let's say nurses, someone else that is reporting it. Some of the incarcerated persons can be reporting it. So I'm not sure on this specific circumstance, but that's usually how most things are relayed.
Okay, so for instance, in like part of the intake process, I believe the individuals are put into a recreation area as kind of a holding area before they complete the intake process?
But potentially.
Okay, maybe only when the numbers are large. In any event, if something's going on in that intake area between different individuals that could be of a suspicious nature, how would the sheriffs know that unless they pull up the camera? They wouldn't get that real time.
If I understand your question, something's going on. The deputies are there, so they're right there in intake.
With them?
Not necessarily in the cell with them. They're outside the cells in intake. So whether you would physically see it or you would hear it. Again, there's also the CCTV. So potentially you might see it who's ever working in that control area.
So there would be a sheriff positioned outside that area or in the area who would be monitoring the activities going on within that.
If I understand your circumstance correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they may not be standing right outside the cell door looking in, but if it's an intake, they could be fingerprinting someone, they could be bringing someone over, and the cells are all right in that area. Are we talking about CJ, the central jail?
Yes.
Yeah, when you walk through, there's those cells, and then there's the control on the inside.
Right.
There's not only those deputies right inside that control, but
Right.
then the walkway or hallway that you walk through and saw the cells, deputies are always there.
Okay.
That facility is, because it's an intake facility, 24 hours a day, people are coming through, and we have to have staff there to manage it. I hope I answered your question, but I'm not
Yes,
sure.
no, I
Okay.
appreciate it. I had a second question about the call boxes. I don't know if they're actually in the cells or in the living area, the group common area within the housing units. When a number of calls are made, what is the protocol for the sheriffs? If they get an influx of calls, do they respond in person to the housing area to see what's going on, or what's the response to something like that if there's a flurry of activity?
You're talking about the intercom box?
I don't know, they were referred to as call boxes.
Yeah.
So I think it would just depend on what's being said, the situation, the location, but those areas are, again, monitored by CCTV. So even if someone wasn't there specifically, you could look through CCTV and kind of have an idea, but there's also the communication on the call box. So the deputy in control could speak right through that
Right.
call box to them.
And the deputies have I don't know what unit controls these boxes. They can turn them off,
What do you mean, turn the?
disable them, so that no further calls can be made.
No, not necessarily, no. No. So if somebody's in the cell
Yeah,
and they're clicking to speak,
right,
then it's gonna light up and come through.
right. Okay, so if a sheriff feels it's being overutilized or whatever, they don't have the authority to turn them off?
No,
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
And it looks like no more questions, Chair.
Okay, you want to move to our probation liaison?
Good evening, Anna Diaz-Pena with probation.
Welcome.
Hello. So we did submit a response to Ms. Jenna Yu questions. We did submit them over email, but I also brought copies for you guys so you guys can have them as well. For her, it's pretty long, so any follow-up questions, I respectfully request you email us if you do have it, because it is about 4 pages for you.
Oh,
Yes.
I actually didn't get that email, so I don't have any follow-up questions. So
Oh,
I'd
no,
like,
I have them. Yeah, I have it for you.
I'd like to reserve the opportunity to ask you any follow-up questions at our next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then
I
also
don't think that was, I'm sorry, I just want to, was that circulated to us, Brett? Because I don't remember receiving it.
It came in very late this afternoon.
Okay.
So we didn't have an opportunity to send it to the board before the meeting today. We
Okay.
discussed this and that's why she brought a copy.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we should talk about it the next time as well.
And then I also have one for Ms. Federico Mondragon. I also have a response for you and also
Okay.
brought copies with attachments for your answer too.
Is mine a short response?
Yeah,
Could be read?
yes, it is that the youth in the juvenile justice systems have significant protections, and that's what you actually wanted to know. So yes, they do have protection.
Thank you.
But I still wanted to give you all the information.
Excuse me, ma'am, did I understand you to say that if there are follow-up questions, you request that they be submitted to you via email first?
Correct.
Email to the
Correct.
board or to you?
Brett typically emails them to me, and then I gather all that information and bring it back.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you responded to those questions in writing. It's helpful for us to have them in writing. I would, though, respectfully request that when our board members ask questions in a public meeting, that you are able to come and provide us with an answer in public at the next meeting verbally, because I think it's important that not just we get the information as an answer, but that the public gets the answer as well. And Brett, maybe you can think about how we can do that with the answers that we've been provided.
I will discuss that with probation liaison and see if we can include those as an attachment to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do appreciate you answering our questions.
Thank you.
Any other question for our probation liaison while we have her? Okay, thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you, guys.
With that, we can move into closed session. Ms. Gross, if you could please read us into closed session.
Yes, thank you, Chair Pintar. On tonight's closed session agenda, we have 11 matters, and they are pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B. And that concludes my read into closed session, and they are all listed in the agenda.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, and then if Brad or Nars, if you can let me know when everyone's back assembled again. I know it takes a little bit of time for staff to clear the audiovisual equipment out. Thanks for everyone members of the public who joined us tonight.